Okay, so today I wanted to talk about using black in your art. So if you've been around and you've looked at tutorials and that kind of thing, then you'll hear a lot of people say that they don't hardly ever use black, that they don't like it, that it feels flat, those kinds of things. It creates muddy colors, it creates poor shadows, etc. So I don't use a lot of black. I do think it has its place and I do use it on occasion, but I have found through some, I guess, work and experimentation that it's not always the best choice even when you think it might be. So I ended up painting this same basic scene, I think 8 different times, actually 9 different times, because I wanted to kind of show why black isn't always the best color, and I feel like that's not always clear. So in this one, so the only thing I changed in any of these is the night sky color. I used the P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof for the stars and the moon and the quickie details on the mountains. For the mountains, I actually used neutral tint, which is my go-to as a general rule when I need a black color, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So this is just a basic night sky, darker at the top, fades gradually. You have your mountain range. This is okay. It's not a bad night sky, but it does feel a little flat. And so I went and I did one in neutral tint. Again, same thing. I did the same process. So I kept everything except the night sky the same, and neutral tint for the night sky, neutral tint for the mountains like always, P.H. Martin's white, all that fun stuff. But the difference in these, well, you can see that this comes off a little warm, but for me, the neutral tint has more life. I don't know how else to say it. It's just, I feel like more vibrant. It shows a lot easier. You can clearly get a very nice dark night color with the neutral tint. And that's something, like I said, I tend to use neutral tint a lot when I just need a dark color. And this is kind of why. It also is more neutral, for lack of a better word. It does lean a hair cool, but it's not going to give you an overtone of super warmth or super coolness. So if you want something that can kind of be whatever, then this is a good option. So these two, like I said, there's a clear difference in how they show up between them. I clearly like the neutral tint better than I like the black. But let's get into some other colors that you might not have thought about. Ooh, let me find my colors here, because I will show you the color I tend to default to in a minute. So those are our neutral tint. This one is going to be Lunar Violet, and this one is Moonglow. So Lunar Violet and Moonglow are both Daniel Smith colors. Moonglow is specifically Daniel Smith. There are probably other brands out there that have a Lunar Violet. I don't know how they compare because I've not used them. So aside from the fact that I screwed up my moon, you get to see another one of those. Same thing, neutral tint on my mountains, Dr. Martin's P.H. Bleed Proof White, and I made these. So there's a little bit of an issue with these two colors in that they are both very granulating colors. You can see this really come into effect down here when I came into the fade, where the color breaks apart and you get these deposits. It's not a bad thing. There's kind of, some people have a love-hate relationship with granulating colors. Again, I think they have their place for me personally, but it did take a lot more layers to get this darker portion up here. This Lunar Violet is really pretty in the end, really shines. It's a decent color for a night sky in my opinion. Moonglow, also not bad, but you can see some of the streakiness, and that's, like, again, some of that's part of the granulating color. Some of it is how you're putting the color down too, and I'll talk about that in a minute. I actually debated painting some of this on camera and decided that that probably wasn't gonna be a good video because it was just gonna end up being long. But again, when you come back and you compare these to the black and even the neutral tint to some extent, just look how much more vibrant they look and more alive compared to this just flat black color. So let's put these aside. We're going to show them all again in a minute. And then, so let me look. This is Indigo, which turned out pretty nice. This one actually took me by surprise. This is Payne's Gray. I do love a good Payne's Gray. I use a lot of it. It's probably one of my most used colors. Again, you can see you can get a really nice dark black color with Payne's Gray. So there are times I will also use it. Indigo gave us a really beautiful night backdrop on this. And then I used the Lunar Blue, which is also granulating, as you can see down here and kind of throughout. Just a nice blue. Not bad. It's definitely not my favorite. But out of all of these three, the Indigo is probably my favorite. I just feel like it really does look like a night sky. However, the color that I use the most when I'm painting night skies is Prussian blue. I got to screw up my moon on that one too. Again, you can get a really dark, almost black color. The fade is really nice. If you go look at the night sky at night when it's, you know, dark, not twilight or whatever, that sky is not a solid black. There is still a lot of color in that. Out of all of these, the Prussian blue is still hands down my favorite. I think it just looks alive. It looks like a true night sky. It looks like something you would actually see. I posted this to my Blue Sky account, and this was the one that people really commented on. There were some others that they really liked as well, but this one was pretty much hands down the favorite. Same on my Facebook account. The color is not the color you would necessarily think you needed excuse me, for your night sky. I think I picked it kind of on a whim one time, and that's what I have actually gone with. But look at this Prussian blue color next to this black and see how much different it feels. For me, there's a huge difference in the feel of these, and I don't know if vibrancy is the right word. Just not even realism, but just, like I said, this one just feels like it's alive. This one just feels very flat. Excuse me. This one has a lot of depth. There's just a lot to this. It has the same effect. It's the same type of gradient, the same basic mountains, etc. But it just feels a lot different. So we're going to lay some of these out. I don't have a whole lot of space here, so we're going to try and make it work. But initially, I did these 4 because I wanted to show it. Goodness. Just to show the difference. And they look a lot different. They feel a lot different. I actually like this Payne's Gray more than I thought I would. It's a little granulating, not heavily. A good color. Like I said, it's a solid color. I use a lot of Payne's Gray. And then I did the second batch of these. And I think I'm going to run off the bottom here, unfortunately. So I'm going to overlap a little bit. But when you look at all of these side by side, they all feel a little different. And they all feel much more alive and much more vibrant and much more real. Not necessarily realistic, just real than this black color. And this is why people will tell you that using black is not always a good idea, or a lot of people just avoid it altogether. Goodness. For me, black has its place. I do use it sometimes. I don't ever use it for mixing, really. There's better ways to do that. But when you're dealing with something like a night sky, most people picture that as just dark and black. But that's not true. And I think when you lay these out like this, it really shows the difference that a simple color change can make. You know, yeah, this would be fine. It's acceptable. But look at the just difference in all of these. Even something like neutral tint that is basically a black. But it just, the feel is better. And to me, they're much more interesting, I guess, when they have that enhanced color and feel. I have a dog behind me chewing on a bone. So if you hear it, you're welcome. Hopefully it won't drive you nuts. But this is just a simple example of why that color can really matter and how changing it can really shift how this feels. I also, because I was feeling froggy, I don't know why I'm coughing now, wanted to do this in a sepia tone. This is the Holbein sepia. And so I did just a similar little thing. It's only sepia and the pH Martin's white. And, you know, same feel. So you can do this even in a sepia tone. And if you want a warmer black, you can see that this sepia, when you put it on thick, is still pretty dark. So that's something I want to talk about too. A lot of people will use a Payne's gray or another dark blue like Prussian or Indigo, and they will use these kind of straight from the tube type of thing because they can create very dark black or almost black color, and a lot of people will use that in their black items because it just helps create depth. Nothing is truly just a flat black color in nature. We don't see flat black pretty much anywhere. Even if you look at things like hair color, there are different blacks. Like my dog River, for instance, she is a more cool toned black. So her black fur tends to lean a little more warm, or excuse me, a little more blue. And you'll see it a lot of times when she's in the sunlight. I had another dog that was also solid black, and he leaned very warm. He was more of a brown black when you looked at him in the sun. And so those things can really play into how your painting looks and how your painting feels. So if you use a lot of black, try using something else. Try using a dark indigo, or, you know, a Payne's gray, or, you know, this Prussian blue. Indanthrene blue would be another good one. Oh, there's a purple too that would probably work really well, and I can't think of the name off the top of my head. But, you know, there's just a lot of things that you can do. You don't have to use black, and in a lot of cases, it's not going to even be your best option. So consider these other colors. Like I said, I usually lean more towards the neutral tint when I want to do a black. And like for the mountains, for instance, I didn't fill it all in because there's going to be variations in those mountains. You know, when the moon and the stars are, you know, shining down on them, you are going to see a little bit. It's not going to necessarily be just a flat color. And I tried to do it on most of these. I've got one I got a good drop of water on. I don't know which one it was that made it kind of look. There it is. My Payne's gray. I dropped water on it as I was doing the thing below it because I did it on a big sheet and just cut it up. But nothing is truly a flat black. There's always going to be a little variation of light. There's always going to be some color involved. You know, so think about that when your instinct maybe is to use a black, that there's other options out there. You know, like I said, for my night sky, Prussian blue is my default. I may actually try a few things in Indigo and Payne's gray because I do like them. I actually kind of wanted to do this with Indanthrene blue, and then I was like, wow, I have a lot of these, let's not. So again, just think about the other options, and I just kind of wanted to show why black is kind of frowned upon, I guess, in the painting community. It's not a bad color. It definitely has its place. It definitely can do different things, and you can get a black that leans more cool. This is a warm black. I believe I'm using lamp black here, if I'm not mistaken. But think about these things when you really start to put together stuff and you're not depending on other people to help you choose your colors. Like I said, there's a lot of options out here. I mean, I just did 8 for a simple, well, what's basically a simple night sky, and they're all very different and they all have their own place, but they definitely, to me, feel a lot more interesting than just that black. So not a bad color. certainly can use it if that's what you like. That's awesome. Go you. But like I said, consider something else and try it and see how it turns out. You may be like me when I picked up that Prussian blue for the first time to do a night scene and was like, wow, this is why I never liked any of my night scenes. I had tried Starry Skies before. I had tried some like Galaxy, Milky Way type stuff. Never liked them. Couldn't figure out why I didn't like them, as a matter of fact. And then when I used the Prussian blue, I was like, oh, this is why. This is what I was waiting for. This is the depth that I wanted. This is the just vibrancy that I wanted that I was not getting with just the black. So if you want to try a little experiment, please let me know how it goes. I'd be interested to know. I think I'm going to end up trimming these up and probably sending these out as postcards somewhere along the way, since I have several of them. And I hope that helped. Maybe helped you see some of these other colors a little differently. Made you think a little bit about things that we kind of assume are one color, but they're truly not. And if it did, then let me know. I'd love to hear it. And I'll see you next time.